Hello, this is JB from JB Racing. We've got here some nice little rock racers. These are WLToys. You might have seen them under the names, the part numbers of A333, K949, and most recently this one here in these colors. They're calling it the 10428. There's also the 12428, and the 10 is 1/10 scale, the 12 is 1/12 scale. You also see that exact same model under the Fiu brand called the Fiu Eagle. Now these things are actually the same exact thing as the Vetera twin hammers, and they are made by the same people, I'm certain of it. At least the chassis and the plastic components are concerned. When a company decides to design and make something out of plastic, they'll generally design their product and then contract with some manufacturer to make the plastic parts. These are injection molded parts, and they're very expensive to set up and make. And they make them in all kinds of materials. You might hear stuff like LDPE, which is low density polypropylene, ultra high molecular weight polypropylene, polyvinyl chloride or PVC. They're nylon, some of them are glass filled, some are oil filled. Glass filled would be considered a composite, and the glass is added for extra strength. But there's a lot of different kinds of plastic they'll make them out of. And when they do that, they're going to want to make as many of them as they can because of the expensive setup. So what I think is happening here in the market is a company designs the product, makes a contract for the parts, has a big run of the parts made, and the parts may only be run one time, maybe 2 or 3 times, but generally the molds will only last for, say, 50,000 makes or maybe 100, depending on if it's a ceramic mold, aluminum mold, or a steel mold. The steel mold is usually the longest lasting, but also the most expensive to make. And what they'll do is they'll just take these beads of their proprietary blend of plastic, whatever that is, and they'll heat them up and inject them into this little mold, and then the mold will cool off really quickly. Usually has a little circulator of cool liquid or air, and then it'll pop the part out, and it can make one probably every 5 or 6 seconds, or maybe even faster than that. Now what they'll do then is they'll have these parts sent to them, and they'll have them built up, and they will build them up into their primary product, which will be their first release, and say they're going to sell this thing for 18 months. And this is just an example. I don't know for sure this is the way they did it, or if this is done at all, but this would be a way it's done for some products that I know in businesses that I've worked with. I'm an engineer, professional engineer, been doing it my entire life, and have seen this very exact same process done before. Now what they'll do then is, say the first 18 months of the business plan, they're going to release this car, exactly this car, as a Vetera twin hammer, except it might have different tires, maybe even better tires, and it may have a different, more expensive, better radio. It may have some more features on the radio, and they may include in the box a really nice instruction manual, better battery charger like they did with the Vetera twin hammers, and some other things. But essentially these plastic parts you see here, these arms, all of this stuff is the same. All of this stuff in the underside of it's exactly the same. Now what I've done is I've taken a Vetera twin hammers. I don't have one yet. I have ordered one, but a friend of mine has one that he bought in spring of 2015, and he let me sit there and look it over really close, and I actually took one of his plastic arms, this arm here on the back, which you can see here in aluminum. I'm going to put on this eventually. He put aluminum ones on his, and he gave me one of his old plastic ones. I took one of the plastic ones from one of my other ones. I have 4 of these. The other one's apart right now. It's getting ready to have all these aluminum parts added to it. But I took one of those from the twin hammers and one of them from this WLToys K949 to work, and put it on the Instron, where I put it in shear and tensile tests, and they were identical results. I also did acid decomposition, and I got identical results as well. So I believe they're exactly the same part. I also looked at the mold markings on it. the sprue markings where they're molded on a sprue. Generally, say take this arm for example, there'll be 10 of them on a sprue, just like a little model car you buy, and you cut them off or break them off, and they may be machine cut off or individually cut off at the time of assembly. But all those sprue marks are the same. The seal half molds are the same, which you can see that slot. There are no proprietary dimples in it, which sometimes they'll put what they call a mold plug in with a little brand symbol on it or a logo symbol. There's nothing on either one of these, so that was impossible to tell. You can actually put that little plug in and mold out your brand name parts, then take the plug out and mold all the other non-brand name parts, and they're still exactly the same. Now what I think we have here is, with this 949, is the same chassis, plastic parts, and probably the same Lexan parts, with a different motor, a different battery, different radio system, maybe even different tires. The tires on that Viterra were a little different. I don't think they were any better, they were just different. The wheels on that Viterra even looked exactly the same as these. They just had a black ring where this one is green. But otherwise they're identical. I really believe they're completely identical. I didn't take the transmission part and look at the gears, but I'd be willing to bet you they are identical. One of the things that might be different on a Twin Hammers is the metallic parts. That's an easier thing to make different than the plastic. It's such a unique thing to set up to make these very unique single-use plastic parts, and so expensive that they're just not going to do it more than once. So what this manufacturer does then is send out their premium product for 18 months. Let's just use that as an example. So they're going to saturate their market at the highest price range they can get. So these sold for over $400, the Twin Hammers, initially. So they're going to saturate that market for those who have to have the first one on the block, and those who just can't wait and can afford it. Then, after that market is saturated, they'll launch a lower end version of it, which is this, under a completely different brand name, because they don't want to pollute their name brand product. So they'll put it out as a different brand name with lesser features. And I think that's what you're getting here, is just a lesser brand name or lesser features, but really all the parts are the same, probably made at the same time. They may have made one run of these, or they may have made 2 or 3. That's probably it, and it's probably it you'll ever see. There's probably thousands and thousands of these parts stockpiled somewhere that they'll use for spares and for future production. Then what they'll do is then start reducing the price of their name brand product. Now that's what I see happening, because I know you can see the fingerprints of that marketing strategy, because the Viterra Twin Hammers that my friend has, he paid $389 for about a little bit less than 2 years ago. I just ordered one for $250. This one, when it originally came out, the 949, you were seeing these for around the $200 to $220 range. But the Twin Hammers was still in the $400 range. So that seemed like a pretty good deal. I actually paid $130 for this one, $120 for this one, $115 for this one, and they are identical. This is the new version here. They came out with this different color plastic, kind of something neat. They'll fresh up the product a little bit. Probably planned right from the beginning of the marketing strategy for this product. But in any case, I think what you're getting with these bargain price ones is really the same chassis. So don't be afraid to get them. Just know that you're going to have to do a few things to them if you want them to have the same exact performance level as the Twin Hammers, because it probably has a little better radio, a little better battery, a little better motor, maybe even the shocks are a little better. I don't know. I couldn't really see any difference in the shocks, but shocks on this particular unit doesn't make a lot of difference on a crawler like this. Not quite like a high-speed race truck or something. But in any case, don't be afraid to get these. They're perfectly fine. And the ones, I think, the people who say they're breaking more often than their Twin Hammers or whatever, I think that's strictly perception. Because I have done the test on a no-shit Instron test system, and the structural integrity of these parts on a 949 and on the Twin Hammers are identical. absolutely identical. Same number, same on acid decomposition, same on tensile, same on shear. So I think that's just strictly perception. There could be some differences in the metal parts. Like I said before, metal's actually easier to change than the plastic because theirs are probably off-the-shelf metal parts anyway. These things are probably made for lots of different purposes. Now I'm going to take this, well, not this one, but another one I've already got apart, which is just like this one. I've already got it taken apart, and I've already broken one of these arms on the Instron, like I said, to test the strength of it. And I'm going to build it up with this aluminum stuff here. This is pretty cool. I got this from BQLZR. Look up BQLZR. You can buy this whole set for about 60 bucks. They've got them in red and blue, and you can see here's one that's just a straight aluminum color. And I'm going to put them on here and build it up, see how that looks. I also have aluminum wheels coming, actual real aluminum wheels. I can't remember the company, but I'll make another video with it built up and I'll have the wheels on. I think the wheels should be here in the next couple of days, so it won't be too long before I can build it up and show you what they look like. But you can change almost all of the suspension components out on this thing. You can see you got arms and shock towers and all these things. You get the little hubs, and it'd be kind of fun to see how that goes. I'm also going to repaint this body. I'm going to repaint it from the outside. I'm going to repaint all of these bodies. I want to make them different colors because I've got 4 of them, and we're going to race them on the track out in my backyard. Actually, we're building a kind of a little obstacle course. That's the way we're going to do it. More than just running them at speed, it's going to be an obstacle course. And we're going to do them also as FPV, which is why this is on here. We've got little FPV cameras that you can put on here, and we've done it with some buggies. You can see another video. I show one of the cameras that mounts on here, and I've got it on some of the desert buggies that we race at my track here at my house. You know, there's no organized racing really for it. It's just something we do for fun right here in the backyard. Try that FPV racing. That is a trip. It takes a little bit of practice, and you've got to simplify your track a little bit. You don't want a complex track because you just can't see well enough, but you've got to do it to believe it. It is truly a ball. Well, that's kind of what I think might be happening with these so-called clones. I don't think they're clones at all. I just think they're down-market products. That just means they're going to saturate the market first with the high-end product. Then their strategy to keep in the market and continue sales is to introduce different branded parts or different branded products at a lower price point, and then slowly reduce the price of the premium product, and then eventually the product will die. It's kind of the life cycle, typical life cycle of a product. Well, until next video, that's JB signing off.